Hey friend, welcome to the Badass is the New Black podcast, where our motto is done is better than perfect. I'm Chrissy Chin, here on a mission to help you grow your business online, turn your leads into lifelong customers, and scale to six figures and beyond so you can work less and enjoy and earn a whole lot more. Most importantly, I'm a laid-back wife, a mom, a friend who started as a peds nurse, turned network marketer, and now a serial entrepreneur. This podcast is for ambitious people with an idea, a vision, but no idea how to get there. On this podcast, I'll give actionable steps to keep you moving forward while you learn new business strategies, better systems and processes, marketing, sales, all the things you need to build and scale a blissful business that keeps your pocketbooks growing. Grab a beverage, open up your notes app, and let's get to it. Let's welcome Maya Nicole to the podcast. She's a highly sought after Instagram marketing expert and a business coach who's taught over 5,000 students worldwide. And since 2021, Maya has helped students grow to over 3 million followers combined, reach over 500 million people. And while those numbers are great and impressive, Maya's goal is always impact over impressions. Now, her passion is helping business owners minimize the overwhelm that often comes with growing an Instagram and maximize their results through organic marketing so that they can hit their media goals while growing their business. Maya, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here on the podcast. We talked about it and it's happening.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Y'all, if you've been listening to the podcast, then you probably heard it was season 5, episode 18. I didn't pull that out of my butt. I actually looked it up before. I talked about the Kajabi conference and I mentioned that I met Maya there. And I think we talked about networking in that episode and how you can just build a connection almost instantly with someone when you're face to face and in person. And I think it was definitely fate that we ended up at the dinner table with each other the first night, literally sitting next to each other. I had been following you on Instagram, and then you were sitting right there, and we bonded instantly over nursing because you were in nursing school when you it's part of your story, right? You dropped out of nursing school and did this business. So we instantly bonded over wakeboarding.
Yes. Immediately friends. I was like, I need to come to your house. We need to be lifelong friends because that's like my most favorite thing in the entire world. So immediate friendship.
Oh my God. I love it. And then it was like more, bonded over that and then just got to talking. It was like, how can we come together? Can we collaborate to, serve this community? You out there listening, you tune into the podcast, or maybe you're watching on YouTube so you can see our faces here. And how can we serve you? So Maya was gracious enough to come on here. We're going to talk about Instagram, maybe how to decrease the overwhelm on Instagram, and like answer these questions. Can you really use Instagram to grow your business? I think people are wondering that. And, and can you grow it organically in 2023? Is that possible for you? So we're just going to dive in, casual conversation. And then I have some really exciting announcements and goodies for you at the end. So be sure to listen all the way through. But Maya, let's dive in. If you want to take, 2 minutes to just share a little bit of your story, kind of how you got here. I was, drawn in when you were telling me. So I'd love to, for those that have never heard of you before, I'm sure there's some out there. I'm sure they'd love to hear how you kind of got going.
Yeah, for sure. So my story started really back in 2019. I got into the nursing program at my university and I started to look for a flexible job. I came across network marketing and I started to, I researched it for a little bit, dove in literally a week later to network marketing, fell in love with it. And I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. I grew up in a really small town, and so I didn't know anyone who was making money on social media doing anything like this. And so I was like, this is like the coolest thing in the whole entire world. And all these light bulbs were just going off in my head of how big that this could really be, the impact that it could really make on my life and the lives of others. And so I did that through my very first semester of nursing school, and I took the summer off because we didn't have school during the summer. took my business full time, really fell in love with it. And my husband put this bug in my ear. He's like, when are you going to drop out of nursing school and take this full time? And I was like, not going to happen. I was like, I worked so hard to get into nursing school. Ends up that bug in my ear, it worked. And I ended up dropping out of nursing school in August of that. Let's see, in August of 2020, I took my network marketing business even more full-time at that point. And then come 2021, Reels had launched on Instagram, I think in October of 2020, I think is when like the official date of like Reels launched on Instagram. But at the beginning of 2021, it got really popular to do these 30-day reel challenges. And you might have heard that if you were on social media at that time. But I saw all these people who were growing, tens of thousands of followers. And I was like, I know how impactful growth on social media would be for my network marketing business. And so I decided to try it out. I started with a 30-day reel challenge, and I was like, I'm going to grow, again, thousands and thousands of followers, and that didn't happen. I grew 0 followers. So I carried on for 60 days. I carried on for 90 days, and not really much happened in that 90-day period. I grew a little bit, which was more than I had really ever grown since ever being on social media. So I was like, I was happy, but again, it wasn't the tens of thousands that I was looking for. But it wasn't until 2 weeks after that like official 90-day period ended where I grew from 4K to 10K in like a 2-week span of time. And throughout this entire journey, as I was doing this challenge, I was just sharing my experiences because I knew that social media, for not just me as a network marketer, but for any network marketer, is powerful. And so I was like, someone else out there is probably, who might be, doing network marketing and, or doing even just business online in general would maybe be able to find something helpful from these tips. Mm-hmm. No intention of ever being, an Instagram expert by any means, but I kind of landed myself in that position. And I also found my passion through sharing these things through that 90-day journey, and then so on and so forth. And so what happened when I started to grow is all these people started reaching out to me, and they're like, hey, help me grow my business. And so I just recognized that there was that opportunity for me to step in and to really teach Instagram growth. And so that's how I kind of, I don't know, I guess found myself as an Instagram growth expert without really like ever pursuing that. But it really is something that I'm so passionate about. And it really was like, I don't know, people were like, oh, like start with a hobby and then like turn something that you love into like your business. And that truly was how it was for me. I was just sharing it just for fun. And then I was like, oh, I can monetize this. I can make money. I can make even a bigger impact from this. Okay, cool. So that's how I kind of ended up that is how I ended up where I am today.
Yeah. And that's been actually an interesting theme today. I was on another call and talking about getting in the media, and actually just the girls that were talking about their stories that got picked up in the media. It was really just a personal piece that they really wanted to write for themselves. And then it got picked up because they were able to be open and vulnerable. And I feel that in what you just shared as well. Like you had a genuine interest, you were playing with it, you were being creative with it, and it just kind of took off. And so I think there's kind of this common theme of that, maybe not overthinking it, maybe following just what you really want to be talking about and sharing. And that is going to be, what actually, takes off. I definitely was on board with the Reels challenge for a solid, maybe 3 days. And then I was like, this is too hard. Like, this is too much. This is taking up too much time. But what I love about, and because I was trying to create these really beautiful reels with like all these seamless things going together and matching the music. And what I loved about your account and what you do is most of your videos are literally the camera just propped up, showing you at your computer. Yeah. And it's like a white wall, nothing super fancy. There's you, your ring light, your computer, like it's just kind of showing real life of what it looks like. And it's not anything super fancy and super edited and anything that really looks that glamorous. And you're just leveraging that and then throwing the information on top. And to me, that feels so doable. So doable.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think, exactly what you were saying, where almost people feel like they need this Pinterest perfect office to be able to be posting those types of videos. And I'm in a different house now, and my business actually, it was the reason why we're able to be in this house, which is really cool. But where I started for my very first year, an entire year of my business, where I made my very first 6 figures, it was we were in, like, literally our house was like 20 feet wide. We're in this little apartment, and there was 2 bedrooms, one that we slept in, and then the other one was a storage room. And it was a legit storage room, like boxes everywhere. And then there was my desk, and I had one little section of this room where my desk could be, I had my desk, and then there was a blank wall behind me, and I had my ring light set up, and the lighting inside of that room was terrible. Again, I was literally in a storage room. You wouldn't be able to tell if you were like on a Zoom call with me, because all you would see is the blank background, but around me, storage boxes everywhere. And so it is totally taking this, it doesn't have to be this perfect situation. And I think that that's something that's really cool about social media. And I would say actually something that's really cool about Instagram that we're kind of trending a lot more towards is the authenticity of like really showcasing really where you are at and like what it is that you're actually doing. And it doesn't have to be perfectly edited anymore, because if we're talking, like, if we look at Instagram, 3, even 5 years ago, it was that platform where it was perfectly edited. You have those perfect Lightroom presets, and you have to look like a travel blogger, and like everyone had like either like a pink hue to like their feed, or they had like a white hue to their feed. And now, like, don't get me wrong, aesthetics are still important because your Instagram account is your business storefront, but also at the same time, like, as consumers, we're past that now. We're not really looking for that. We're looking for the authenticity of it. And so I always just like to share it. And I think for me, the reason why I share that is because it's like, oh, it's easy for her to do that, because look at her beautiful setup and look at her beautiful office. But for me, it hasn't always been that way. And I grew to 100,000 followers and my first 6 figures in that little storage room with the worst lighting, with storage boxes around me. So if I can do it, you can do it too.
Yeah, 100%. And that's so true. There's been such an evolution of, Instagram and what it looks like, and the true pictures, and then the curated feed, and then back to reality. And your audience, your customers, they're getting smart. Like, they know, and so people are wanting to see the real life stuff, the raw stuff. They resonate with that. And so I think that I'm loving the new trend of like almost anything goes. Excuse me, almost anything goes, because it's like, oh, this can be simple. Like this morning, I shared just what's happening today, what I'm doing, media roundtable, interview with Maya. And I just did a little video of me curling my hair, sped it up. So it was only 7 seconds. And I was like, this is what's happening today. And I'm like, you know what? If this is what we have to do to like, just put something in the background showing what we're doing and put the information people want over it, like, I think I could do a 90 days Reels challenge. Before I couldn't, or at least that was my thought process. But like with this, just a different angle of me, doing work and like sharing, like I can totally do that. So I think it's really empowering and encouraging for you out there. If you're feeling like I'm not a videographer, I haven't become an expert in editing. What we're hearing from Maya and seeing on her account, that's hundreds of thousands of followers that she's grown organically, is you don't need that right now in this moment. Who knows if it will change, but at least for the time being, you can leverage it and lean into this, and not worry so much about what it looks, but focus on being you and showing you and what you're doing, and give the valuable information that people are looking for. And that's what's going to make the difference. Right.
Yeah. Well, I think it's easy too to be on Instagram, and the people that you follow definitely affects how you feel that you need to show up on social media as well. So if you are following a lot of these people who are doing, fantabulous, like real transitions, and they are videographers, and they are like full-time content creators for their job, like, don't get me wrong, there's obviously like they're amazing at what they do, and I'm not trying to discredit them, but also like, if that is their full-time job, is content creation, where they are a photographer, where they are a videographer, where they are, where transitions are a really big part, that's great. But you also have to recognize like that is their job. And like, what is your job as a business owner? You have a lot of different hats that you're wearing. Probably, if I were to guess, like 50 different hats or 100 different hats that you're wearing, and just content creation is one part of that. And I think, again, just going back to, and I'm not saying to unfollow those people by any means, but like who you follow oftentimes does affect the pressure that you feel in the way that you need to show up on social media. It's like, just because they're showing up in that way, because it is their full-time job, doesn't mean that you necessarily need to show up in that same way too. And I think the same thing goes for, and I have very much recognized like my influence as an Instagram expert of the way that I show up. It's like, okay, yeah, like I am showing up every single day on social media, and we can dive deeper into this, but I actually don't show up every single day on social media anymore, but I was for a long time. But it was part of my job, it's part of my job as an Instagram expert to be experimenting. And a lot of that came with posting in a larger quantity, but that doesn't necessarily mean that like you have to show up in that exact same way in order to grow on Instagram. And so I think it's really important for us to recognize like, it's great that it's working for other people, but like what actually works for me and what is actually a sustainable way for me to show up on social media? Because ultimately there's so many different ways to build a successful business. There are so many different ways to grow organically on Instagram. And that shouldn't, like, I don't say that to frustrate you of like, oh my gosh, there's 5 million ways to grow. Like, where do I even start? It's like, but where can you start? What makes sense for you? And exactly like Chrissy was saying, where it's like, maybe you can do a 90-day challenge thinking about how, all you have to do is maybe hold your phone up and, take a short little clip of whatever the day-to-day tasks are that you're doing. And if that's the way that you can show up, and it's not the fancy transitions and things like that, that is the way that you need to show up. And that is the most perfect way for you to show up anyways, because that's probably what's most authentic to you anyways. Now, if you are the person that wants to do those, fancy transitions and these fancy, edits and cinematography and all this different stuff, that's great. That's also probably part of your brand. Definitely pursue that. But again, just like really thinking about, what is authentic to you, but also like, how can you show up sustainably and what does that look like?
Yeah, I think there's so much validity in, looking at who you're following and making sure that you're not comparing, because they probably didn't start there. There's definitely people that I follow that are doing like all these crazy things and bringing in, other videos, and like the text is going in different colors and all this stuff. And it's like, they definitely have a team doing that. And so, yeah, how you are able to show up is how you should show up right now, because that's the difference. And if looking at someone's fancy feed is discouraging you and preventing you from showing up, then unfollow that person, because they're not doing you any service. If you're following that feed and they're inspiring you, like, hey, you know what? One day I could get to that point, and it's inspiring you and empowering you. Keep following them, keep getting those great tips, but definitely we have to filter ourselves these days on social media and protect ourselves, right? Because the comparison game can be a deadly one for you and your business. So I think that's such great advice to like understand and recognize like people are at different levels in their business. People have different roles, full-time content creator, not, and that's what you're seeing. So take that to note. Yeah, super powerful. So what, and I love that you helped all these people grow, and grown their following, but impact is so much more important to you and to everyone else, really. The numbers are great because sales is a numbers game. You need the numbers, you need to get in front of people. But if they're people that aren't interested in what you're doing, it doesn't really matter, right? A number is just a fancy number, and that's not going to increase your sales, which is ultimately what we want. So any thoughts on that and that topic, just in regards to people really finding their people out there?
Yeah. So I think that for me, I always go back to what I learned during that 90-day reel challenge. And people ask me all the time, they're like, okay, well, that seems like it was such a big part of your Instagram growth journey. So do I need to do that to grow on Instagram too? And, looking back, I do think that like the volume of content that I was putting out was a big factor, but I don't think that it was just the volume alone. Looking back, for me, that 90-day reel challenge, some things that I really took away from that were I found my niche. I found the people that I wanted to talk to, not just because I was like, oh, I'm going to decide that this is my niche. I mean, at the beginning of that 90-day reel challenge versus at the end, I was talking to a totally different person. And it wasn't because I was like, oh, I need to sit down and like niche down. It was because throughout that entire journey, I just recognized who I wanted to talk to. And I also recognized who was listening, the people who were consuming my content, the people who were interacting with my content. Another thing is I recognized the type of content that I liked creating, because I was creating a big volume of content where I was trying out this and I was trying out this and I was experimenting with this and I was having fun with this. And so it was really fun for me to be able to have like, I had no pressure during that 90-day challenge because the goal wasn't like, oh, I need to become an Instagram expert or I need to become, this, or I need to hit this amount of followers. For me, it was like, let's experiment, like let's have fun along the way. And of course, like, don't get me wrong, there were frustrations when like I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to see, but ultimately like what I was doing was experimenting and I was having fun. And I think oftentimes, when it comes to Instagram, we kind of lose that fun aspect because we're like, let's get down to business and all of our focus is on the numbers versus like, okay, but actually how many people are we impacting and how many people there are so many people that we don't even recognize, that we probably will never even know who have been watching us, and we are impacting them. We are inspiring them. We're motivating them, but we'll never even know. And so I think that for me, like looking back on that 90-day reel challenge, again, there's so many different lessons that I learned there, but I think because I was putting out such a large volume of content where I was like, oh, that didn't perform well. Okay, well, next day I already have a new piece of content that I got to focus on. And so it's not to say, again, that you need to do a 90-day reel challenge by any means, or that you need to post every single day to be successful. But what I would say to you is really, instead of like sitting there and refreshing on Instagram and refreshing on Instagram and refreshing on Instagram, I'm calling you out because I've done it too. So I'm calling myself out. But instead of sitting there thinking about the next thing, what is that next thing of like, oh, whoa, what am I going to post next? What is that next thing? And really always focusing on that next thing versus, focusing so heavily on like the numbers of that one thing. Because here's the thing about Instagram, especially when it comes to reels, is they have a long lifespan. So if you really want to like really know how a reel performs, you're going to need to sit there and refresh for a whole entire 6 weeks because reels have such a long lifespan. And it's like, think about the amount of time that it would take you sitting refreshing for 6 weeks and what you could do in other places of your business, or the amount of other pieces of content that you could create in that amount of time. And so that's what I would say is like, yes, of course, it's always important to know the numbers, whether that's, how much income is coming in your business, or how many customers you have, or how many returning customers, or how many followers, or, how many people are saving this piece of content, how many, all those things are important. Don't get me wrong, track those things, but like ultimately don't get caught up in the numbers. Really think about the why. Why are you on Instagram in the first place? Most people don't start out on Instagram. Actually, I don't know anyone who starts on Instagram is like, my why is to have 100,000 followers on Instagram. Like, obviously that might be a byproduct of your why, but like and if that is your why, I'm calling you out, you need a deeper why, because that's not the only reason that you should be showing up on social media or that you should be growing a business ultimately. So really digging deeper into that why, but I promise you that as you do dig deeper into that why, the impact is probably why you're on social media. And so that should be the focus. And it makes me think about something, a few different things that were said at the Kajabi conference, but I think that it was Brendan who said this, where he was talking about how, once you lose focus on the heart of your business, which is the people of your business, that's when your business dies. Mm-hmm. And I would say the same thing about Instagram too, where it's like, once you lose focus of the people behind, those numbers, that's when your Instagram account is going to die out. Because ultimately there is a person behind that number, but when you get so focused in just the number aspect of it, that's when things are going to get a little bit more difficult for you. So again, what I would say, just kind of recap on all of that is post it, know the numbers for sure, but maybe instead of looking at those numbers on a daily basis, maybe it's, every Monday during your CEO day where you go back and you look at those numbers and you don't check them until that day. Whatever that is for you, or maybe it's monthly if that's really good for your mental health or whatever makes sense. But if you're only looking at it, once a week or, maybe twice a month or whatever it is, what else should you be focusing on? It's the next thing. What is that next piece of content? What is that next impact that I can make? What is this next message that I can spread? Something along those lines.
Yeah. Or the message I kind of got in the takeaway was continue to play and experiment regardless of the numbers. So like you can look at the numbers, but I don't care if it's 5 people that viewed it or 200 people or 2,000, you keep playing and you keep experimenting. And I'm in this season of play and experiment and having fun in our business as we're kind of like revamping things and getting more clear on who we want to talk to and how we want to serve them. And I know we talked about that in the emails that were back and forth on doing this. And I was like, I'm just in this place of experimentation. Like, I just want to try different things and see what works. And launched an offer and had this idea of a price that I was like, ultimately, I'd like to sell it for this price. And then started playing with the pay what you want feature that Kajabi has and doubled the amount of revenue that I would have made had I actually charged that fixed price by letting people pay whatever they wanted. And it was a total like experiment and psychological, interest that I had to be like, I'm curious, what would people do if I put it out like this? And so, and I'm hearing that from you, like play, have fun, experiment, because the second that it's not fun is the second that it feels like a chore and then becomes overwhelming and then you don't do it and then it's not benefiting you. So I love that message of play with it. Have fun, experiment, and like be willing to show up and continue to experiment even when the numbers aren't going up. Like you were like 30-day challenge, not really any new followers. You weren't like, oh, boo-hoo, this didn't work. You're like, well, let me give it another 30 days.
Yeah.
Let me give it another 30 days, and then you started seeing it. So I think it's just, you're an entrepreneur out there. You're listening. You're an entrepreneur. You have grit. You have heart, like you're in this, you need to be in it for the long run. And if you're not going to see the results. So play and have fun because it's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. So I love that.
I think something that's so important to pull from that too is like, it's not just playing and experimenting when you're getting started on your journey. Like if you look at my Instagram account, this is actually so perfect because I literally just did this yesterday. I experimented with my reels. I posted 2 different reels, the same hook, but the content, like the video content was different. And I was like, I'm just curious to know like what my audience is most attracted to. And I'm experimenting. And here I am, 260,000 followers on Instagram. And I'm still experimenting because I don't want to lose out on that fun. And there's also so much great things that you can learn from experimenting and just trying new things. And it's like, maybe both of those reels could have flopped, and it ended up being that both of them didn't. But actually the last time that I experimented with reels, which was just a few weeks ago, actually, they did both flop. And I was like, oh, well, that wasn't what I was thinking about. That's not what I was expecting. But again, I was like, I'm here to have fun and I'm here to experiment and to try new things. And so it's not just like at the beginning of your business, it needs to be fun. And I think sometimes we lose that. If you are further into business and you are an entrepreneur listening to this, I highly recommend like asking yourself, like, am I having fun in my business? And if you're not, it's like, what is one thing that you can do this week to bring fun back into your business?
Mm-hmm. I love that. I think I witnessed you experimenting because I saw a reel that you did and I was like, oh, I like that. And then I went back later that day to try and find it. I was like, where did that go? And then I was on a little bit longer and then like it kind of popped up again, but it was done differently. Yeah. And I was like, oh, there it is. But wait, it's different this time. Yep. So I think I like literally witnessed and experienced playing around with it, which is so fun. But I love it. And I love one of your pinned posts, and whether you're listening way in the future, I don't know if it'll be pinned there now, but the really cool one that you did that it's like, here's, tap on the reel. So it's like you with like, here's your challenge for the day, tap on the reel and then hit it to stop it. And you have like all these different challenges going through really fast. And then they hit it and it freezes on one. And that's your challenge. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. I think I tapped it like 5 times to just kind of see some different ones that I would get. But just like fun, creative, things. And whether you're using someone else's Instagram for some inspiration and putting your own twist on it, or just using your own creative space to come up with something. Again, like it's not the end of the world if no one sees the reel, like no one saw it, right? Like no one saw it. It's fine. Move on. So I love that. I've loved this conversation. We're like nearing the end, but this has been great. And I'm excited, y'all. I'm bringing Maya back in. I'll share a little bit more on that, but you can find Maya at Maya Nicole on Instagram. And I love that in my questionnaire that I sent you with all your information, it's like Facebook link and you're like, no Facebook. Again, proof that like you can be wherever you want to be and like make it work.
Yep.
So super incredible, super powerful. Maya has a freebie for you. It's called the Ultimate IG Checklist. I'll leave the link in my show notes. But before we go, let's talk about your membership, because I have a special link for y'all listening too for her membership where she continues to teach on, it's called IG University. We had dinner a couple times, or we had a couple meals together at the Kajabi conference. And I remember sitting at dinner and I was like, okay, I used to have the music on my Instagram and now I have the crappiest music ever. Like, I need help. What's going on? Why did it do this? And you're like, oh, like, I think it's this, like, let's poke around. Yep. It's because you have it as this setting and you're not, this, and you helped me fix it instantly. And then you were sharing some of your like hidden secrets on reels and the strategy, because there was something that you do, and we won't reveal the strategy. Maybe you guys will have to come to the training, but I had mentioned to you, I noticed whenever you do reels, like things go so fast, like I can't read it. And you're like, there's a reason behind that. And I was like, oh, I knew it. And you talked me through it. So we'll save that for the exclusive training you're going to do for the community. But I'm sure like these are the kinds of things that you support people with in your membership. So do you just want to share a little bit about your membership and then I'll share the exciting announcement?
No, yeah, for sure. So, as I was growing my own Instagram account, all these questions just started coming up. And originally I launched a Reels course, and that Reels course is actually included inside of the membership. So you get it for free, instant access when you join, which is really fun. But as I launched that Reels course, people were like, but like, wait, what about this? And what about my bio? And what about my highlights? And what about, this specific setting? What about like hashtags? And I was like, oh, there's actually a lot more to Instagram than just Reels. And so that's why I launched the membership. But something that's really awesome about the membership is that it's continually evolving as Instagram is continually evolving, because guess what? We all know the algorithm's continually evolving. There's always new features that are coming out on Instagram. And so this isn't like a course where it's like you purchase this, and it's updated to whenever you purchased it. It's like this membership is continually updated. I'm in there every single month updating it. There's live Q&A calls. There's a Facebook group page that we're active in. So it is for you to go in and get support. But what's even more fun about all of that is it's all based on organic strategy. So I'm not going to say you need to run this ad and you need to pay for this and you need to do this. Like, it's all based in organic strategy for service and product based businesses. So yeah, that's the membership, and it's my baby. I love it so much.
I love that. And it makes your job a lot harder because you do have to they're constantly updating and changing things. And so you have to constantly update, but that's what makes it so valuable, because y'all, I don't have time to go be in all the different groups or like wherever I'm supposed to get my IG information from. Like, where's the update? It's like Maya, I trust you. Like, I'm coming into your membership and like, I just want the latest and greatest. Like, just give me the Clips Notes, right? Like all the things you're spending all your time learning about and researching, you just tell me what's working and then I'll play around with it. Right. So that's where I think there's so much value there. And thank you for like putting in the work to give us the Cliff Notes and like the highlights on what to do.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's my full-time job, so it doesn't have to be your full-time job.
Exactly. I love that. So if that that interests you all and you want to keep going with Maya in the membership, IG University, go to thechristychin.com/IGU and it will take you there. Okay, so before we go, exciting announcement. I didn't want this. I knew I wasn't going to want this conversation to end. I knew it like we weren't going to get to go deep enough. We weren't going to get to share some of the strategies. So I am bringing Maya back to teach an exclusive IG training for our Build a Blissful Business students. But I've decided to give you the opportunity as part of my community, as a listener to the podcast, as someone who's maybe on YouTube watching, to come and be a part of this, where she's going to do an exclusive training for us, get way more in depth, share the strategies that she's learning, and be available for Q&A. I got to selfishly ask my own questions when we had dinner together, and it was so valuable. So I want you to have that opportunity. Of course, if you're listening in real time, you'll have the opportunity to join us live and ask Maya questions. We don't have a date. We came up with this, kind of just before, and we're like, let's do it. So go to thechristychin.com/Maya Nicole, MYANICHOL. Link will be in the show notes. It'll give you date and times. If you're listening in the future or watching in the future, no worries. Go to that same link and I will share with you how you can get access to it. So I'm super excited to bring you back to go in depth, because we only got to touch the surface here, to be able to go much deeper. So again, thechristychin.com/Maya Nicole to get access to that. Maya, thank you for being here, for sharing your insights with us. I got some of my own golden nuggets here. I know that people out there listening took away their own message that's going to help them move forward. So thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for having me back too. I mean, like you said, we're just skimming the surface. So I'm excited to be back for that extra training.
Love it. All right, we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you got some value out of this episode, I would love some support. And the best way to do that, so I can keep showering you with loads of actionable tips, is to hit that subscribe button. Leave a review or a comment if you're on YouTube, and share this podcast with a friend. And when you share it with a friend on social, please tag me so I can reshare your share in my stories. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out. I appreciate the heck out of you for showing up. And now it's time for you to take imperfect action so you can work less and enjoy and earn a whole lot more.